So tonight, I thought we would cover something pretty complicated. I'm gonna be talking about two of my favorite teachers, Emile Coué and Eugene Gendlin, and utilizing their very practical philosophies and approaches to feel better about yourself and manifest a better life. Before we do that, we're going to have a short meditation like we usually do, and then we'll go on to this more seminar portion of the call. It'll probably be about a half an hour, I guess. I actually wrote a lot down, so we'll see how long it is. And then we will do questions, insights, ramblings, whatever people want. Yeah, so let's jump on to the meditation. And thank you all for attending live. I love interacting with people live when we do this. And when we do these meditations, really, we're just going for a sense of being grounded. We're not going for a special sense of euphoria or bliss or high vibe or high frequency or whatever. When I say meditation, for our intents and purposes, it's very simple here. We are just focused on our body. We're probably sitting down. Maybe we're lying down. Maybe we're walking. Maybe we're driving. We're probably just sitting. You can notice your body. Notice maybe the heaviness in your legs or the feelings in your stomach or feelings in your shoulders or your neck or your head. Just let your body be there. You can have your eyes open or you can have your eyes closed. Either are good. And you can just let your body be. We're not judging the body right now. And you could also, while we're doing this meditation, and really throughout this call, let your thoughts be if you want. In other words, you might be thinking all sorts of things, and the all sorts of things you're thinking are fine. They're all good for right now. We're not trying to get to a certain place or understand a certain anything right now. We are just allowing our thoughts to be. We're letting our body be. And doing this can be quite nice. And it's okay if for you right now, it doesn't feel quite nice. It just feels normal or boring or whatever. My point is we're still just here right now. And you're safe just to be here right now. No problem, nothing to achieve. Just here we are. Here's my body. Here's my thoughts. All good. All good. All good. All good. The space to be. The space to be. And that's what we're going to be exploring and looking at a lot tonight during this kind of seminar thing that I have written down on a Google Doc. We're going to look, as I said, at two of my favorite teachers, Emile Coué and Eugene Gendlin, and see how they kind of unpack stuff for us in a way that allows us just to be more. Because what I often hear when it comes to law of assumption, law of attraction, manifestation, spiritual ideas, is people say, well, just be, or just be beingness, or just be I am. And it sounds great. But the question is, how do we actually do it, right? And teachers like Neville and Abraham Hicks give some pretty good directions at first, but then those directions after a while for a lot of us don't feel sustainable. And in my experiences, most manifestation oriented directions don't feel sustainable. And what we're going to explore tonight is perhaps something that is more sustainable. And to be honest with you, this is, in a way, I was reticent to even record this live because this is a pretty nuanced discussion we're going to have. But like I said, it's all good. It's all good. And I think that some of you are really going to like the approach that we're talking about tonight, because again, if you're new here or new to my channel, like, I'm not negating Neville, who I love, or any of these other teachers I mentioned. I'm just saying this is something you can do alongside those teachings, or when those teachings are not reverberating for you the way they used to, or this week, or whatever. What we're about to discuss is something very pragmatic you can do with your imagination and with your body, pretty much whenever you want. It's not state dependent. It's not dependent on you getting to a certain state, frequency, vibe. And this is also kind of the approach I personally use for myself, probably more than any others, this kind of gentle mind-body approach. So let me pull up this Google Doc if I can, and we will go from there. For those of you joining late, we will be taking questions and be talking after this dynamic presentation is finished. Let me pull this. Is this big? Can you guys see? You guys can see this, right? The Coué Gendlin approach. Excellent. All right. So yeah, if something is off, guys, just chime in, unmute yourself and chime in, or type in something. I'm not always good at keeping up with the chat, but here we go. This is pretty interesting stuff. So Emile Coué, most of you know Emile Coué was a very famous, during his time, basically psychotherapist and healer. He helped people heal. He's my favorite law of attraction manifestation type of teacher. Eugene Gendlin, a lot of you know, but for those of you who don't, pretty famous philosopher / therapist, had a very interesting approach to therapy and doing self-work. And what we're doing is kind of combining and looking at their ideas side by side, because they complement each other really well. And as always, you might find that what we're talking about tonight, only like 10 or 15% of this, maybe, or 20% of it might really seem relevant to you. Heck, maybe only 5% will seem relevant to you. But I hope that you're able to extract what is relevant for you and just forget the rest, okay? But I think there's going to be some interesting stuff here for you. So let's look at, according to Coué and Gendlin, why problems persist in our life. Why we know that if we feel better on the inside, our life will probably get better. I think most people on this call believe in some significant way, you know, in manifestation ideas, and the idea that at least to a certain level, as within, so without. So with us intellectually understanding that pretty well, because there's not a lot of newbies on this call, I don't think. I think all of us understand that, like, if I feel better and am, you know, thinking better and more constructively, my life will probably improve. Why the hell doesn't our life improve, even if we already intellectually grasped that? Because I think most people that are into these ideas for a long time, which are the people who watch my channel and read my books, again, it's not new people who usually find me, we get these ideas intellectually. We might not understand all of them, but like, we understand the conceptual aspect of this pretty well. So why problems persist? Coué would say troubles stay because our imagination loops around our problems. In other words, instead of thinking good thoughts consistently and looping those good constructive thoughts, many of us have a tendency, if not, dare I say, most of us have a tendency to loop imaginatively around negative thoughts, scenarios, situations in our life. Coué would say autosuggestion is already happening, that we are suggesting stuff to ourselves no matter what. It's not like we're just auto-suggesting some of the time. We're always thinking, we're always suggesting to ourselves. The problem is we're often doing it in a manner that's totally not the way we want. In other words, we want to imagine positively, but the reality is a lot of the time we are basically suggesting things to ourselves that are very negative. And it's easy to say this. It can be harder to break this chain or this loop. And that is why, as wonderful and evocative as advice like Neville's is, it rarely works long term for most people, because the imagination is not able to take hold of a positive loop easily enough. It's not usually enough just to do SATs for a couple of days or a couple of weeks and to change these deeply ingrained traumatic loops that we've had since childhood. It can happen, but to consistently do it, it's quite difficult. And that's why you don't hear success stories of people like, starting to take Neville's advice and then just like elevating very quickly, elevating literally, right? Like, people manifest a few big things if they're fortunate or if timing is right, but then they don't build upon it a lot of the time. And building upon it, integrating this stuff so it actually works on a more practical day-to-day level is what so much of this deeper teaching is about. So Coué says we suffer because imagination is running negatively and unattended. A lot of the time we're totally unaware that we're even thinking so negatively. We have to like step back, for instance, do something like the Emmett Fox 7-day mental diet to realize how much negative chatter is even there. Most folks, quite frankly, are not even aware of how negatively they're thinking. Then you get into this stuff or, become aware in some way, whether it's, through psychoanalysis or some other spiritual practice, through LOA, whatever. And you start to realize, holy shit, are my thoughts negative a lot of the time? I didn't even realize how negatively I was thinking about this. I didn't realize how negatively I come back to this one situation or this one life event or this one, relationship in my life. Eugene Gendlin, in a similar way to Coué, says, trouble stays with us because we fuse with a felt sense. That's a fancy way of saying that trouble stays with us because we identify with a negative feeling. We identify with a negative feeling and think that is me. This feeling in my chest that feels kind of tight and contracted is not just a passing physiological feeling. That is my anxiety. And my anxiety means that I am not good because of X, Y, Z. We build a whole narrative and are fused with a narrative that is primarily negative imaginatively on top of the feelings that we have that pass through us. Gendlin says we're inside the contraction, the feeling, with no space around it. We personalize it. We say, this is my anxiety. This is my fear. This is my inferiority. This is my inability to be successful. This is my inability to be healthy. This is my inability to be attractive. A shared truth between Coué and Gendlin. Problems persist because we identify with them instead of observing them. In other words, we don't have enough objectivity. So we can take a different stance toward the problem. And again, guys, this is stuff that Neville and so many great law of assumption and law of attraction teachers touch upon, but they don't talk about as clearly, in my opinion, as Coué and Gendlin often did. So Coué said, don't fear the problem. He gave a great example. He'd like to talk about like if there's a dog that's barking at you viciously, look straight at it, like look straight at it and don't be afraid of the barking dog. You know, your knees might be trembling. You might feel very afraid. But Coué would say, look at the dog and slowly back away. He said, if you turn around and run away from that dog, the dog's going to run after you and bite you. If you face it, slowly backing away and face it, the dog backs down. That was a metaphor for your imagination, Coué said. Coué was not saying you're not going to have problems. He was saying you can face your problems and deal with them differently, imaginatively than you have been. This is not metaphysical or esoteric. This is looking at the dog as it's barking to you, as it's barking at you, and slowly backing away as opposed to running away from it. You know, in the manifestation space, in the pop manifestation space, it's like, well, I have to feel high vibes. So I can't have these feelings of feeling bad or anxious or sad or whatever. I can't have them. Coué really saying, no, they're there. They are there. And we have to look at them. And if we look at them openly, we can start to imaginatively work with them as opposed to inadvertently perpetuate them by running away from them. Gendlin said, you want to stay with the felt sense, the murky edge. You don't want to be scared of going to a place where you don't know exactly what's happening in the body, where you can't exactly label it, where there's no narrative that's clear. You want to stay with that murkiness, even if it feels uncomfortable physically, even if your mind spins while you feel that feeling in your chest or your stomach or your throat. You want to stay with it and not push it away. You don't need to make a narrative over it or dramatize what it means. You can be with the felt sense, with the feeling, without creating a huge narrative over it always. Simply keep company with it. A lot of Gendlin's work is simply, okay, you feel a certain way. Let's look at that. Let's not run away. Let's not run away from the barking dog. Let's not create this crazy story about it. Let's look at the feeling, and not only look at the feeling, let's just be with it. And this is very disarming for people who think, well, I can't just be with a feeling. Gendlin says, well, no, the way to work with the feeling is you be with it. Likewise, Coué says, no, the way to work with your imagination is to actually be with the feelings that, imaginatively stir you. Be with that fear. Be with it. Be with that shame. Be with that anxiety. Be with it. Keep company with it. And realize you can relate with it differently than you have been. So a shared truth here between the two of them is presence without fleeing dissolves the bind. So moving on, how the dissolution actually happens, how the bind is dissolved. This is important. This is like, see, Coué is so misinterpreted in my opinion. In my opinion, Coué says we don't fight bad suggestions. We replace them gently. If you're scared, just affirming, I'm not scared, I'm not scared, I'm not scared, it's not going to work usually. It's not enough. You have to get deeper within your imagination to really replace that scaredness with something better. It can't be mechanical. Mechanical affirmations, robotic affirmations can work for a bit, but then it has to become non-mechanical, personal, truly imaginative. Truly imaginative affirmations is constructive imagination repeated softly without effort. In other words, positive loops that are believable. Positive loops that are believable. Because what most of us have right now for a lot of things that are bothering us are negative loops that are believable. Negative imaginative loops that are believable. And we want to replace them with gently positive loops that are believable. Believable stuff is suggested to you without effort. Gendlin would say, and a great way to do this is by focusing in the Gendlin style. A way to change these loops from being negative to positive is to stay with that feeling, be with it, like we were talking about, until you realize that is not me. This feeling is not me. This is something happening here, but it's not me. Oh, I feel scared. It's a sense of being scared. But is it that me? No, the body is just scared right now. Can I handle that? Yeah, I'm scared. No problem. I'm still okay. Just the body is scared. I'm scared. This does not define me. This is a passing feeling. When the body feels met, something fresh emerges from within. Insights emerge from within when you do something like focusing and somatically are with the body and realize that the narratives we have about it, oh, I'm scared. This means I'm never going to have any success in my life. I'm going to end up alone. I'm never going to make it through anything. When you drop that story and just realize, oh, this is a feeling of fear right now because it's 4 a.m. and I'm worried about what's going to happen over the next couple of days, and the body is trying to process that fear in some way. It does not define my whole future. When you separate who you are from that passing feeling, things shift. Those negative loops start to soften, and you're able to constructively replace them with more positive loops. Oh, this is just a scared feeling. It's not who I actually am. This actually isn't that bad. Oh, this feeling is actually trying to tell me that I have to be aware of where I am at the next couple of days and emotionally honest with myself. Okay. Shared truth. This is not willpower. It is cooperation with deeper forces. In other words, with your imagination. Things shift because you hold steady contact with a feeling, working with imagination, not against it. How to handle resistance. Coué would say to handle resistance, if fear appears, acknowledge it, just like with the barking dog. I am not afraid of you. Retreat slowly if needed, but never turn your back. Look at it. Look at it. We are not denying it is not there when it is there. It is there. No problem. It's there. Okay. Gendlin. If something feels stuck, stay with the stuckness itself. People make a narrative out of, oh, I feel the same way. Nothing's changing. That is a narrative. That is not actually what's happening. What's really happening is a feeling of stuckness, which is constantly changing. Stay with it. Listen to it. You can ask it, what do you want? What do you want? And, I've made so many somatic videos before, and I've talked about focusing before, and you can look at Gendlin stuff, IFS, other somatic stuff, and really get an idea of what Gendlin means when he says, stay with the felt sense, stay with the stuck feeling. Nothing happening is something to accompany a feeling to be worked with. It is not, quote unquote, nothing happening. Nothing happening is a concept. This is not conceptual. This is feeling based. That's real imaginative work. Shared truth. Resistance is not a problem. It's part of the process. That, I have to say that again. Resistance is not a problem. It's part of the process. You stay with it until it loosens on its own. That is about 100 miles away from traditional LOA advice. And a lot of you might not like it. And you don't have to agree with it. But in my experiences, that's the truth. And Gendlin like to say the body knows a heck of a lot more than we conceptually know. When you have a feeling that's uncomfortable, it's often trying to tell you something and processing something. And if you try to suppress it or oppress it, long-term, it rarely works. That's your imagination. That's all imaginative too. And it's also why affirmations rarely matter long-term. That's right. For those of you new to me or Coué, as far as I'm concerned, Coué was the best LOA type of teacher, not because of his method in regards to conscious autosuggestion or affirmations. Conscious autosuggestion or affirmations work only if the imagination accepts it. So just saying something over and over and over again is not going to change your life sustainably long-term, usually. For some of you, maybe. Very, very small percentage. And for those of you that it does work that way, it's because your imagination accepts it. But most people cannot force belief through repetition. They cannot force their imagination to change through repetition alone. It's not a mechanical process. It's a dynamic, imaginative process. When separated from a relational or felt grounding, affirmations or conscious autosuggestion become mechanical and fade quickly. And for those of you wondering about something like robotic affirmations, those work well when you've said something so much that it becomes non-mechanical and you kind of give up in a way. And the imagination says, all right, finally we can let this in. But that's not a sustainable practice for most of us. It's not cooperative. And the real engine is the cooperation of imagination plus nervous system regulation, not verbal repetition. This is why both the Gendlin and Coué models say effort destroys the effect. Coué, you have to remember the law of reversed effort is probably the, forget all the other laws. Everybody's talking about laws. And the law of reversed effort is not a real law either, but it's more of a valid law for practical psychology than probably any of the more popular laws we hear about. And it basically is saying that if you think you're going to will your way to success, you're not going to unless your imagination goes along with it. If your effort is not in line with your imagination is going to overpower it always. So if you are trying to change your imagination or trying to change something and your imagination does not believe it, it's not going to happen, generally speaking. The role of environment. Coué was explicit but often overlooked on this point. This is why Coué is a great teacher, not because of conscious autosuggestion, guys. This is why Coué is a great teacher. Your inner and outer environment matter more than any technique. You must feel safe. You must not feel pressured to succeed. You must have relational or imaginative support. For instance, imagining Coué beside you, or you can imagine, any teacher beside you. That's imaginative support. When you are with a teacher who's helping you with this stuff, that is imaginative support. When people were at Coué's clinic, they had incredible support from Coué. Coué mistakenly thought, well, my method is strong enough to survive when the environment is gone. He was wrong. When Coué went, when his clinic went, so basically did the teaching. So much of this stuff, if not all of it, is hypnotic. And you induce self-hypnotism upon yourself through environment, not by saying certain words. The fucking words don't matter. It's the environment that's cultivated. And usually a teacher helps you cultivate the environment. When I coach people or counsel people, I'm cultivating an environment that helps people believe in themselves. That is exactly what Coué made explicit that most of these other LOA teachers kind of put in the background. Coué said, I am not healing you, but you believe me, so you are healing yourself. That is an environmental thing. It's not about conscious autosuggestion. It's not every day and every way I'm getting better and better. That's fine. But every day and every way I'm getting better and better means nothing if the environment is not right. The environment must feel safe and it must feel believable to you in order for the imagination to really work wonders. You need a space where the imagination is not being contradicted all day long. Again, you can try looping something mechanically or even not mechanically, feeling good for a couple minutes. Oh, my life's getting better. But then when those couple minutes are over, you have the rest of the day. What loop is going on then? You want to, and I mean this in just a totally practical, non-metaphysical way, you want to hypnotize yourself so you expect more and more good things in your life throughout the day, not just when you're doing some technique for 5 minutes. That is what Coué really meant when he said every day and every way I'm getting better and better. But that is environmental. The environment must be created. Gendlin, you could argue, is saying the same thing in even a deeper way. The body opens only when the environment feels non-threatening. The body processes things imaginatively only effectively, truly effectively, when it feels comfortable, when it doesn't feel pressured or feeling like it's being judged. The environment can be your room, your internal atmosphere, your relationship with your imagination, or most importantly, the way you relate to the contraction itself. When you stop looking at your feeling in your chest or stomach or whatever, that fear or whatever you want to call it, when you stop looking at it as the problem and the enemy and start to actually build a constructive, imaginative relationship with it, that is how you start to actually believe every day and every way I'm getting better and better. Long-term sustainability, name of the game. Coué, his advice often works brilliantly short-term, but becomes mechanical if the spirit of it, the relational imaginative cooperation, gets lost. That's what I was just talking about. That's why I always say Coué's great. The best Coué advice is it's not about conscious autosuggestion. It's about working with your imagination constructively. That's what Coué really was teaching. Conscious autosuggestion, affirmations were just the kind of the delivery method. But it becomes mechanical if you're just saying affirmations to say affirmations. This is a big job. It's not just about saying affirmations a few times a day. Gendlin's focusing approach and similar somatic approaches can scale indefinitely because the body always knows what the next step is once it's given space. If you don't judge the body and your feelings, it's processing stuff for you imaginatively. And again, the stuff that you used to be scared of, those feelings you didn't want to acknowledge were there, those shadow parts, start to become friendly. And imaginatively, you no longer see them as an adversary, but as an ally. Shared truth. Self-healing requires an environment where imagination and body can respond freely, not pressure, not force, not technique. Integration, why these two methods fit together perfectly. Coué gives you the map. Your imagination is already shaping your experience. You can redirect it through gentle, believable suggestion. This is really important. You're always imagining. We are always imagining. You have no choice in that matter. It's not like you can say, I'm not going to imagine. You saying you're not going to imagine is imagination. What Coué is saying is you can learn and gently work on making it so that imagination that's always running becomes more constructive, more positive. And the more you work with it, work with your feelings, you can begin to make it more and more believable to yourself that you are feeling better and that your life is getting better. Gendlin gives you the actual mechanics, the somatic reality and approach that many of us need. How to actually sit with the fear contraction until it unwinds physiologically. And again, look at Gendlin's stuff, read his book Focusing or watch some of the videos online of Gendlin talking about this stuff, and this will become clear. I can't explain focusing in this seminar, but if you just look at it and practice it, I think it will start making more and more sense to you. So when you put Coué and Gendlin together, You start to recognize the imaginative loops that run your life, which is what Coué spoke about so articulately. And you start to dissolve the loops in the body, which is what Gendlin spoke about so articulately. You naturally build your self-confidence. You cultivate self-hypnotic skill. You stop attacking your imagination and befriending it more, and you return to being more grounded during the day. This is sustainable somatic self-hypnosis, not affirmations or metaphysical techniques. And again, Coué said, explicitly said, I always have to make this clear. He said, all of this stuff, as far as I'm concerned, can be boiled down to self-hypnosis. Moral and physical regeneration of the body through self-hypnosis of the mind. When I say self-hypnosis, I do not mean that term negatively. I mean it positively. I mean that we are hypnotizing ourselves all the time, no matter what. You're imagining no matter what. Imagination is self-hypnosis. We might as well acknowledge that and start working with it as opposed to against it so much. The core daily practice. This obviously can be, you can play with this however you want. This is the simple version. These are just general guidelines you can, play with. Number one, notice when you're ungrounded. That's the whole beginning. Number two, face the inner barking dog. Acknowledge the feeling, acknowledge the fear or the trigger, whatever comes up. Gendlin's absolute listening method, which I made a video a couple months ago about that. I think the video was called, if you want to, I'll try to put the link below, but if not, the video is called like how to make your phone a better listener than your therapist or something like that. It's kind of a joke. I love therapists, but Gendlin's absolute listening method can be extremely helpful for you to acknowledge the feelings you're having. For instance, when I do the absolute listening method on my phone, I might be like, my body feels really fucking overwhelmed right now. I don't know what the fuck to do. And then ChatGPT, my phone, will say, right now, your body feels really overwhelmed and it doesn't know what to do. And I'll be like, that's right. And I just feel like I'm really stuck right now. And no matter what I try, I don't seem to be getting anywhere. And it will say something like, you're trying many things, but nothing seems to get you anywhere. And there's a feeling of being really stuck and unable to get out of it. And I'll be like, yes, you're right. And because of that, I just feel like I'm going in fucking circles. And it's like the feeling of going in circles is what's happening over and over again. And the more I talk to it, the more it will become clear what's actually going on. The more I'll be acknowledging it without running from it and be facing the barking dog. And eventually that clarity physiologically will create a different sense in my body where I'm clear about it. I will have processed it. You can watch that video if you're unclear what the fuck I'm talking about. Excuse my French. Absolute listening is an incredible Gendlin tool. Stay with the felt sense. Let the body speak first. That's a key thing, guys. That's the somatic key. Don't think your mind up here knows what's going on. It usually doesn't when we feel like crap. Down here is where the gold is usually. Stay with the body. Stay with the body. Number 4, offer one gentle, believable suggestion. So once you've felt the body and kind of process stuff, you can say stuff like, things can calm down again. My imagination knows what to do. I am feeling a little bit better. Okay, this could work. This can loosen. I'm allowed to feel this feeling. This feeling does not define me, etc. These are not cliche standard affirmations. These are actual suggestions about what you can do or where your body is at. Number 5, this is maybe the most important. Give it time. Let the shift come on its own. When we do this stuff, when the feelings are uncomfortable, there's not going to be fast shifts always. Let the feeling be there, accompany it, do absolute listening if you need to, or other methods you like that. Talk to ChatGPT about it and be patient. Neville loved using the P word too. Patience. Patience. Give it time and the feeling will shift. And the more you get into this stuff, I think you can have shifts relatively quickly, especially if you're doing something like absolute listening. How you feel will be processed relatively quickly. And then another feeling might come up that you want to work with. But that initial feeling, you can usually process that pretty effectively within a day or two, often within 20 or 30 minutes or a couple hours. And then something else will probably come up. That's okay. You can process that too. You become comfortable processing the stuff. You become comfortable processing the stuff. All of a sudden, it's sustainable. It's not scary anymore. It's not, how do I keep on doing sats when I don't feel anything? How do I keep on affirming when I don't believe it? This, what we're talking about, is believable. Closing principle. Coué, imagination is more powerful than will. I have nothing to say to that. I mean, that's just how it is. Imagination is more powerful than willpower. And what's sneaky is you think you're using your imagination so often, you're actually using willpower. And that's why it's not working. A lot of this is acknowledging that, oh yeah, my imagination is kind of running riot right now, and that's okay. I'm going to look at this wild barking dog, not freak out, and work with it. Gendlin's closing principle: the body knows the next right step. Listen to the body. Don't be scared of the body. Listen to it. Together, your organism knows how to normalize when it is not being pushed. Your role is to create space, not force improvement. Yeah. So that's that. We went a little bit over a half hour, but not bad. Not that much over a half hour. I will, if you're interested, I'll send you that Google Doc. Just email me info@radicalcounselor.com or contact me on my website. I'll send you that Google Doc if you want a copy of that. That was a lot. I now open the floor to anything that people want to ask or share.
I'll share.
Awesome.
So, yeah, when you were talking about, the will and the imagination, it's funny. I feel like I kind of battle this like on a daily basis with my job specifically because I have to do a lot of like cold calling and trying to like make appointments, and people don't know me. And so every day I feel like I have to overcome this feeling of kind of like fear over and over again. And but I do find that the more rested my body is, the better. But if I feel more tired, I feel that fear kind of it grips more, and
Mhm.
it's harder to get my imagination kind of like out of that feeling, that funk. Um, but yeah, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was gonna say it's scary because then my mind goes on a track, right? Like, oh my gosh, if I don't, do these phone calls, how am I gonna make appointments? And then I'm gonna be useless, and then they're gonna let me
Right.
go. Like it, it goes all the way.
That's the loop.
Um,
Exactly. The loops. And that's
yeah,
again where it's so helpful to see it, which is what you're already, I think, doing, Sheena. But like then to just kind of, okay, let's go to the body now. Like this is what's going. I know what's going on up here. This is going on up here. There's the barking dog. What's going on down here. And that's like, it's different what's down here.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that
What's down here? Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, please.
I was gonna say what's down here is more like saying, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid people are going to get mad at me, or they're going to yell at me, or I'm not going to, or I'm not, my words aren't going to come out right. So yeah, that's just like that kind of like an inner childish kind of feeling or sound. And the
Mhm.
mind is just like very militant, like, let's go. You got to do this. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That explains so much. So it's like, if you want to use like parts language, it's like, how do we keep both those parts happy, right? But it's also like for me, you say that, it's like, all right, well, like how can I pay attention to that? If it's scared down there, I have to talk to it, or like be with it, right? And like maybe parent it, if we want to use that language. And if I parent it will probably gradually shift a little bit. Um, and then the militant part will relate to it maybe differently too. But it's respecting that initial, oh, I'm scared, I'm worried, I don't feel safe or whatever, they're not going to like me. It's respecting that as opposed to denying that, right? Which is what we have a tendency to do. And again, this is why uh focusing and that kind of somatic approach can be so helpful, because it allows us to sit with those feelings. And you don't have to do it at work, right? Necessarily, you could do it later that day when you get home or before work or whatever, but like to be with it more in a non-judging way, and to realize like, oh, you're scared, I'm sorry, like I'm sorry honey, like I'm sorry, like, like it's all right, like, you have kids, you understand, like it's like, it's like that type of relationship, right? And that's so much more forgiving of yourself, because it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm scared, it's scared, but it's okay. Yeah.
Right. I work from home too, so actually I have the privilege taking a minute to do that, so that's nice.
That's
But
great.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
exactly.
you.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, great example. Yeah.
Tim, I had a few things to add slash ask.
Yes, absolutely.
So for me, I've always struggled a lot with SATs because of my ADHD. And for me, that was always a very like point of frustration because you hear all these stories of how people manifested these huge things with SATs and visualizations and stuff. And when I was hearing your presentation, something that kind of just clicked to me is that when we talk about the techniques that are supposed to just imprint a belief into the subconscious, we're essentially, like you said, we're just self hypnotizing ourselves, right? And so for me, one of the things that has been like the most helpful, and I think I told you this before, is the use of subliminal audios when I'm in a drowsy state because it bypasses the conscious mind that fights and tries to rationalize those things so your subconscious can just, believe it without the filter of the conscious, essentially. But I feel like even that can have a bit of a delay because, say, you're doing that, you still have to make the conscious choice to listen to that subliminal about that particular subject. So while you're awake, you're almost fighting that as well if you don't believe it truly. And I feel like the thing that has helped me the most to sort of like overcome that is getting into the root of why it is that I have those beliefs, like what happened in my childhood or what was the catalyst for me to have those beliefs, and then confront them, like you said, like look at it. So that's why I do EFT tapping to confront those things head on and then remove the emotional charge of them, and then replace them with new thoughts.
Yeah,
I feel like for me that's the thing that has worked the most.
totally. And I don't think it's surprising that it's EFT and something more body based that helps you do that, like you say, because it's like then you actually go into the body as opposed to um, staying on that layer that still gets mental relatively quickly. Like whenever it's like, well, what, like what's the problem? The problem is often not the problem we think, right? If we go to the feeling, if we go below, not conceptual, but to the feeling layer, what we think is the problem is really the feeling. And the feeling is often not really the problem. It's trying to tell us something. And what's trying to tell us is often the real problem that has to be looked at, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, I mean, it all comes back to figuring out different ways that work for us, or maybe just one way that works for us to feel more positively suggestive, to feel more hypnotic in a good way, to self hypnotize ourselves in an effective way. Neville said, all of my techniques are just figurative. They have no power in and of themselves. It's what they imply. It's what they imply. And that everybody misses that. I mean, SATS is a phenomenal hypnotic technique for a lot of people. That's why you hear all those spectacular stories. But it's not very replicable for most people. Otherwise, people would be talking about it more to be able to teach it more effectively than they do. And I'm always curious why more people don't mention that that line of Neville's I just said about how all my techniques are figurative. And I can give you the answer. The answer, in my opinion, is because people don't really know what the hell they're talking about. They haven't gotten deep enough. So the answer is you go deep enough and you figure out what works for you.
I think it's also part of just doing shadow work. That's what it is. Just really get real with yourself. Look at the parts of you that you've probably tried to keep hidden for so long, that you've tried to ignore, all the pain, all of that, and just face it. Face it, work on it, acknowledge it, and then let it go. And I think other people don't want to do that because it's painful. And everyone thinks that like manifestation is just to get a desired outcome, but ultimately it is a life-changing thing that you have to do as a soul. It's more than just getting something specific. It requires more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why people don't do it. Exactly. It's people often get into these ideas. I don't think the people on this call and people who watch my channel or read my content, but people usually get into these ideas with the hope of getting something relatively quickly through a technique. And you get into this stuff for a while and you go, holy shit, it's not that at all. And it's like you said, people don't want to look at the shadow, and everything we just discussed, all the Coué and Gendlin, it's like, well, we start at the shadow, you know? And that's what makes this stuff more gratifying long-term if we do that. And again, that's nothing against SATs or any other technique. It's just, it's not enough in and of itself for most of us to feel satisfied with these ideas long-term. So thank you for sharing that.
No worries. Thank you.
Great. Mira, I see you raised your hand.
Sorry, I did. Hi. So we just spoke the other day, right? So I think this was actually really interesting for me to listen to. I like to process everything in my head and kind of understand it. And once I understand it, then it's like, oh, I get it. I know what to do with this. But for me, what was really like what I kind of got out of it, it's really understanding as to why all of these sats and technique and nothing really works, because what captured my imagination is really that we are inside that contracted feeling. There's no space around this. And I had this image about like me having a cup that is full of, let's say, coffee, and I want clean water. So no matter how much of the clean water I pour into that cup of coffee, it's not going to get clean water because there is coffee in there. I have to get that coffee out, rinse the cup, and then I can pour clean water. So to me, what you were saying about, sitting with a feeling, and I certainly have that experience. That's how I emptied that cup. And that how this cup becomes actually clean. So then these sats will work. So most of us want something, and we want it because we feel we don't have it. So that's that murky coffee sitting, right? And we are constantly pouring the kind of sats and imagination and clean water, and it's just not getting anywhere. So none of the technique works because it has no space to get anywhere. So you first have to empty. So for me, that just that sentence that you said, we are sitting in this contracted feeling, there's no space around this. So this is really how we create a space. And then once that space is created, that coffee can be transported out, and then you have a space to pour into that empty space what you want. It's almost like you become that empty space, and then you really choose differently. So that's the power. That's how we, I think, get into this powerful state where we can choose, because now we are in this empty state.
Yeah.
And we're all afraid of these feelings, and we never want to go there. So that's why nothing actually works, because we never empty ourselves so we can then put something new in.
Yep.
That's kind of images that I got when I was listening to you.
Great imagery. Yeah. I think that's spot on. It's very, again, unsettling. We could say, like to go into the murkiness, just because we're not used to it. And I want you to get comfortable getting used to it.
Yeah.
And that's like the relief of being comfortable in the murkiness is, I don't know. I feel like that's better than most people. The manifestation, what people think they want in their manifestation is really the relief of being okay in the murkiness. That's what people really want, is the relief of that. Oh, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right. And from that free of a space, like you say, it's like, well, then it becomes so much easier if there is an external thing you want or something you want to change, because the self-condemnation, the blame is not there as much. It's just cleaner. You're able to move more fluidly and take more appropriate actions and not feel as stifled or what have you. Does that make sense? Like when I say it
totally.
like that?
Yeah, exactly. And almost like, if you kind of relate to other teachings, is like you become then in that zero space. And in that zero space, you actually have really the power of choice. And then you can say, well, I now choose this and I'll choose that. And that's a decision that is very easy to make. Oh, no, I want this, right? But if you're in that murky space, it's like a molasses. You cannot move. You cannot make any different choices because that's all around you and you can't see clearly. And it's really, thank you. I just got this really kind of clear image as to what the process is, and that's why techniques work or they don't.
Yeah.
And usually they don't, because we're sitting in that stasis, so to speak, and it's like you can't make any choice from that position where we are in, where we have all these.
Well, you can decide, you can kind of choose to be in it, to go into it and not be afraid of it.
And that's the best decision that you can actually make at that point, not to force yourself to do more techniques and affirmations, but to actually make a decision to, can I just sit with this and see what happens? And then I think that release actually come, and not only relief, but that wisdom actually that space in ourselves have actually gets revealed.
Yeah. And in my experience, this is through the body. Usually it's not through it's not intellectually, it's revealed through the body. Right. And then it hits the mind or something. Not never, but often not in the way you would have thought. Right. It's like,
that's how it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, the only thing I would say is like that zero state terminology, it's like, Richard Dotz, who I really like, who's a modern writer, he talks about that stuff all the time, but like, that's great. Like conceptually, again, I agree with most of what he says, especially in his earlier books when he talks about that. Like, but the problem is like, how the hell do you do it? Right. And he gives explanations for how to do it, but I don't think they're very sustainable. What I just laid out, I feel like it's extremely sustainable. And it's because it's like, we're not paying lip service to going into the shadow. LOA loves to pay lip service. Oh, we're doing shadow work. And it's like, no, like that's not, let's really do it. And then everyone gets quiet. Like, that's like, it's like, because it's like, oh, okay, we're really doing it. Like, and it's not what people expect, but the benefits are, oh my gosh, it's just, it's that relief. It's that cleanliness. It's that transformation.
Yeah. So it's almost like that relief actually comes from just pure acceptance of the state that we are in, be that anxiety, be that like disappointments, whatever. So it's like, if I can just sit in that, I actually get that relief that I want. And that's the only thing maybe that I want. And so that's that 0 point. I think it's actually the acceptance. And you just are describing how to get into that. So
I think so. I mean, I always like that William Burroughs quote, all pleasure is relief.
Yeah.
It's but I mean, again, also the relief of realizing like that fear, that shame, that anxiety is not a bad thing, but actually my body trying to tell me something. That's a paradigm shifter, right? Like the resistance is bad. That's traditional LOA, right? And I mean, listen, I get it. Like I but like, how about if we can look at the resistance like it's not actually resistance? And like, I mean it, like Gendlin means it. He's saying your body knows more than your freaking mind does. You know what I mean? Some of the other teachers I really like, they're like non-dual, like Yuji Krishnamurti. He would always say your body knows everything. Like you're deluding yourself thinking your mind knows what's going on. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says by any means either, but like, because I think we have this imagination that we have to work with one way or the other. But the point is, if you get comfortable with the resistance and the murk and see it as a constructive thing, as opposed to something that you're doing wrong, that's a huge paradigm shift.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Absolutely. Lisa, did you have
Yeah. Hi, Tim. This has been a great session. And I've just got a really great real-time story. 2 days ago, just the background is I'm giving up a business that I've had for 13 years, and it's been a bit of a challenge, and I was really in the mire. And then I used your chat GPT. I used your chat GPT recommendations of just all the bodily experiences. It's 1 minute it was in the back of my head, and then it was in my stomach, and then it was in a weird place on the left side of my body, and I was just feeling those feelings. And then I was talking to chat GPT, and I just processed it all day long. And it was really, chat was really with me, and just kind of acknowledging what I was feeding in and reflecting it back. And then, so I was in this state. And then yesterday, which I'm in Australia, so, different days. But yeah. I woke up, I went to work, and I just had the best experiences all day. And one of my fears is that I've got nothing to go to after this closes. I had 3 job offers yesterday, and my feeling was light. I had positivity coming into me from every direction, and I had that sense of relief that you just talked about. And I'm sort of quite emotional about it, because it was real-time evidence that this stuff is real.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for your
great story.
Help and for your recommendation of even using chat, because I would normally call a friend, but it was office hours and I can't disrupt people all day long to just say, hey, I'm really feeling this way. So it was really good to be able to really be with those feelings.
Great story, Lisa. Thank you for sharing. That's wonderful. Yeah. That's also think about, I'm glad that you didn't call a friend, because your friend probably would have made it personal. Understandably, I would too. If you called me, I got to personalize it. GPT is more impersonal, and that I think really helps. It's like talking to a therapist in your pocket or what have you, right? It's very beneficial to do that. And what's amazing is, like, when you're working with the feelings the way you were, and then you bounce it off GPT, how quickly you can process and move through things. Now, you're relatively new to that as a tool. Think about now using it for a couple months or over the course of a year. Like I've been talking about just how amazed I've been since I've been using it intensely for, like, maybe it's December now. So 8 or 9 months. And like I said in the video the other day, the amount of learning and processing that's occurred has been faster than any time I can remember in my adult life. Right. And it builds, right. And that's another way to make everything more believable. But like you start to believe in, I can process and be more positive, more effectively. GPT is mirroring that, how you're feeling, and basically imbibing you with more belief. And, I was saying to somebody, I was on a call right before we got on this call, again, that great Neville quote, assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Well, that is exactly what processing feelings through GPT enables us to do faster, is harden assumptions into fact more effectively. Now, we don't want to be delusional. We want to do all the normal disclaimers about, GPT can be abused, blah, blah, blah. But if you're on this call, I know a lot of you, and I just assume if you're on this call, like, you're mature enough and objective enough not to go off the deep end with GPT, but use it as a mirroring tool and as a therapist or counselor or coach in your pocket. And you've got it all the time. I mean, you can use it all the time, or whatever AI you want to use. So great story, Lisa. I'm so glad to hear that too. And congratulations on all the job offers. You got to watch out. You're going to have too many job offers soon,
I also want to say they were actually ones I really wanted too. They weren't just random. There were particular ones that I was chasing, and they all just came upon me that day. And just great meetings with people, great emails with people. And it feels really, my step out of this is more like a completion. It's not like something I'm losing anymore. It's more like a completion. And Wonderful. Then now stepping into the new. Thank you. Yes.
That's so great to hear. I'm glad to hear that development. Awesome. All right. I'm going to look at chat, see how wild I've gone with not checking the chats. Zoom host.
I have to leave. I'm sorry. I'm at work.
All right. Yes, we'll see you. Thank you for yes. Thank you for hopping on. Absolutely. Bye, Mary. Yep. Talk to you later. Bye. Okay, here's a question. Is the goal to replace negative thoughts with positive ones? The inner dialogue is tricky and tenacious. I am not sure how to overcome this to be at peace. Some things work sometimes, but it is so persistent. These negative thoughts seem to win at the end. The goal is not to replace negative thoughts with positive ones. It's the short answer. Definitely not. The goal is to be somatically honest with yourself. And that is what, if you look at, I have a playlist of just seminars like this one. It's called Free Seminars as a playlist. Just look at some of those seminars where we do some somatic work, or look at the focusing stuff of Gendlin or IFS stuff. We're not trying to replace thoughts. We're trying to understand our feelings better. By understanding our feelings better, our thoughts will naturally become more accommodating and peaceful and friendly. But the way out, usually, so to speak, is through the body. It's not through the mind. I can never replace positive or negative thoughts with positive thoughts successfully. My mind just goes da 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 da. The negativity bias is too strong. And maybe some people are different, but like I'm not interested in this that much. I'm interested in what's down here and working together with it, right? But I don't pay it, like I see the thoughts, but I don't take them seriously when they're negative a lot of the time. Let's put it that way. That's what this work can help you do, because the deeper stuff's going on in the body usually in terms of processing.
Thank you. So it sounds like it's a lot about kind of like self-compassion in addition to that, and being aware of your body at the same time.
100%. Self-compassion and awareness of the body. Yes, definitely. That's
Thank
a great
you.
way of saying it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. What chat GPT do you use? I use the paid version, but just like the basic paid version, it's like $20 US a month. I believe it's it just upgraded to 5.2, but you can use any AI. I say chat GPT because I feel like it's the one that most people use, but any AI is good. Bridge, I'm going to click on this picture here. I don't know if I'm going to see it or not. Oh, it's the map of consciousness. Yep. Wait, what's pure Tao? I like that. Yep. Map of consciousness. Right on. Tanya, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you so much. This was so helpful. We had just talked, so it ties in. I think it's when you were going over everything, and I realized, most of my day or my recovery time is trying to process something that seemed unpleasant or even traumatic. And so it occurred to me, would you almost say that, like, and I'd asked you sort of this question about, rather than setting goals about things that I don't like in my life, just simply maybe just apply this process to, because I almost always have a bad feeling that I can sit with, or like, would I better spend time doing that, and then the goals might just emerge sort of organically, if that makes sense?
I think yes. Short answer is yes. Again, don't take anything I say as gospel, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think so, for sure. Especially if you're talking to AI, ChatGPT, alongside, like I almost guarantee you, yes. Awesome. I don't like guaranteeing, but yeah.
I won't hold you to that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, that's definitely, I think that approach is good for sure. Bridge, you had that follow-up question. I see now. What are your thoughts for people that have aphantasia? Is it a barrier or possibly an advantage? I don't know if I'm saying aphantasia right. I never know if I pronounced that right. I made a video about this like a year ago. If you search Tim Grimes aphantasia, it should be there. My thing with aphantasia is like most people who say they have aphantasia don't actually have it. They actually can visualize some. Like if I say apple, they think of an apple. That means you can still visualize. For people who literally can't visualize at all, that's fine. You just can't visualize. You just use the tools that you have. Somatic work does not deal specifically with visualization at all. So it's not a disadvantage or advantage, I would say, but I don't know enough about the clinical side of it to really give that informed of an opinion. All I know is you can do this feeling work and do the Coué type work without being a visualizer. And people connotate Neville type visualization too much with this stuff. It's, again, just a figurative tool, very effective tool for some people, but obviously not for everybody. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Edward, I see your hands raised, and then Daff, I'll get back to you after that.
Hey, man.
How you doing? Good to see you or hear you.
I'll turn my camera on.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's been a minute.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I feel a little sensitized and vulnerable at the moment. So I'm kind of trying to feel out what it is exactly that I want to express or not express. But I it came at a perfect time that I saw that this call was happening because I felt like I needed some kind of regulation and support with other people, and particularly like with other people who have a certain kind of awareness, like you do, and like other people on this call do. And yeah, and I opened up my email like 5 minutes or something before this
perfect.
call, and I was like, okay, there you go. Like I should hop on here. But yeah, without going into specifics, last night I had a situation that came up that was unexpected, kind of confusing in some ways, also bittersweet in some ways. And I felt as this situation was happening, a certain sense of like, there was a feeling of acceptance in the moment. There was a feeling of acceptance, allowance, and this is a situation with a person. And it actually brought us into more presence with each other, which was all like in the moment. I felt okay. I felt regulated, despite this being something that I wouldn't have necessarily chosen to have happened. Um, but then after the fact, now that was last night, like 12 a.m. something like that. And now 12, like over 12 hours later, the feeling kind of germinated more, like,
Right.
and I've just found myself just feeling more in my body, and feeling, and as this ties into principles of conscious creation, while also that balance of conscious creation. And for me, it's like having a feeling of an inner knowing, which is an embodied thing. Like there's a feeling of an inner knowing that I can have in many circumstances throughout life, that you could call intuition or whatever. But on some level, it generally ends up being true. So honoring that, while also simultaneously like honoring the current reality and like the current feelings that are coming up, that's the main thing that I've been taking away from from this call.
Yeah. You can email me if you want to talk a little bit more specifics. But let me ask you, do you feel like right now, like you feel like you know what to do, how to handle what's like what you're feeling?
Um, not fully, no.
Okay. So what, see, this seems very, very fresh, obviously, but like what's scaring you right now? Or like what's like you know what I mean? Like what's that?
Yeah.
What's the bad part, basically? Gendlin would say this is worth people hearing. Like Gendlin would say, like, what's the worst of it, right? Like what's that scary, like worst of it thing feeling?
Yeah, I guess the feeling would be one of like, yeah, fear and regret, around like, oh, perhaps if I had done these things differently, like this would have uh turned out this other way, things like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you can be with that, and you can also intelligently and compassionately ask that sense, like, you know, is that, do you know that's really true? Like, how can I support you through that? Like, does it know that it would have been different, or does it know that you could have done things differently? Like, what is it getting at? You know, and you just, you know, again, you can be with it. You don't have to answer anything right now or expect it to answer you, but it's more like just listening to it and being like, you know, I hear you, I love you, like, you're okay.
Yeah, I do have answers. I mean, again, the answer kind of came to me in the moment
Yeah.
when it's happened last night, which was, yeah, this is okay. This is actually
Right.
And even though that might seem kind of completely counter, like opposite to, what my intuition is telling me, and what my inner knowing is telling me, this somehow feels also very much okay, and almost like a good thing to be happening in this moment.
Yeah. Does that feeling, like that worst part feeling, know that, or does it not know that?
Yeah, well, I think there's this deepest feeling, if we're thinking about it almost like in parts work kind of framework, like
Yeah.
that part definitely would have a hard time believing or accepting that. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's probably like this part of this feeling, this conflict right now, and this is completely normal and okay, right? And you it's okay to have that feeling. And it's also, I agree with you. I think the feeling you had last night, you've had too many experiences, like, this is valid, but it's also okay for this part to be like, this is not to feel good about it, feel awful about it. That's okay. They're both allowed to exist, So yeah, it's very fresh. I mean, again, email me, we can talk more specifics or whatever, but I think I don't know, but I feel like what to, like, the process, you know what I'm saying? And it just, the process is not always, again, it's freaking murky, right? As we talk, like, it's muddy, like, it's not pleasant, but this is going to that worst of it, feeling and comforting it. And also having that knowing that this is kind of is what it is and what it was meant to be. Like, you can hold both of those, and you're good at that. So that's kind of the approach, probably, that sounds like could be good. Anything else about that too? We can keep on talking about it for a minute or two.
I just last thing I'll say is I did, I had I've had this feeling come through me, but there was also a place that I landed in where I was like, because in a way I had been avoiding something for like the last couple months. There was sort of an avoidance, awaiting, and even though there's this pain that's come up, there was also that feeling of a knowing, even in the moment. And now, like, even in the pain, I actually have felt more of a, like, there was avoidance before, and now I feel like I can look at this more directly and actually take more direct aligned action around it as well. Which I didn't feel like I had the capacity to do that for like the last couple months.
Good. Well, thank you for hopping on. Right, I'm glad this worked out, and thank you as always for being an example of sharing stuff so openly and with such awareness. Always good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. Yeah, Sheena, I see you raise your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that like doing the inner work and things like that is crazy amazing how when you start paying attention how you're able to hear like that inner child voice. Like, because at first when I started doing it, it was kind of like, but now it's just I know it, and I think that's really cool. And just briefly speaking, I went through like this 10-day period where I was kind of talking to this person romantically in a way, right? And but anyways, it was a connection that happened pretty fast. So then I got uh one night I felt an energetic shift in my body, and I was observing how that shift made me feel, or how I reacted to it. I almost felt like there was a shift, like something changed on his end, like like something changed. And I noticed I got anxious, and I went, and my reaction was to grasp, like to
Mm.
cling on, and I just thought that was really interesting that I sensed that in my body. That was really weird. But yeah, anyway, it's just what I was trying to say is like it's cool how this works makes you more observant of your own reactions, and that's just really helpful
I
to
agree.
pivot and see what's, maybe what needs to be changed or what's going on.
For sure. Yeah, I totally agree. It's so powerful. And it's amazing. And it's also amazing, like, like what Edward said, like how quickly stuff comes up once we start doing it, then we like the intuitive hits, like, a lot of times we will ask like a feeling or a part or whatever you want to call it, a question, and like, boom, like it's right away. Like it gives an answer right away. Like definitely not always, but a lot of times it knows, like, it's like, it just, we have to check in and see. And it's like, boom, like there it is. It's not intellectual. It's like direct. Right. And you start to trust that more, and you start to trust too when it doesn't come, and you're just kind of there, and you're like, like, um, and yeah, that's the work. That's the beauty of it, for sure. Yeah, thanks, Sheena. Yeah, Daph, your hands raised. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I have a lot of things to say based on what the other people were sharing and some of my own sort of like downloads as the conversation was unfolding. And lately, I've been very, very intentional, and I think I told you this in our call about what I'm exposing myself with social media. And I think the reason why a lot of people nowadays are unable to heal, right? And because they're not healed, it's very hard to manifest. It's because they are constantly absorbing the conscious ethos of anxiety, hate, stress. And I think social media and the news are the main catalyst for those things. I feel like, at least because I'm Gen Z and speaking from my generation, I notice a lot of like a very deep like loss of identity from people, whereby they think they have to be a certain way to be accepted. They're very there's this fear to be perceived, which I think has a lot to do with underneath shame. And I think with everything that's happening in the world and us being constantly bombarded by that, we subconsciously become fearful, and there's this low trust with other people because that's the only thing that our minds are consuming. And if that's what it is consuming, that's what it's coming into agreement with, it has no choice but to reflect that back to you. So it's this constant sort of like a reinforcing loop of misery. And so when I decided to become more conscious of that and really just take the power back towards myself as the operant power within my reality and just cut off access to that poison, because that's really what it is, spiritual and mental poison. That's when I began to have like those synchronicities. And one of the ones that I'd like to share with you is this call. So just to give you some background, when I first began to dabble into like the law of assumption, I was very, very happy, very excited. And I wanted to like find community, right? And so that's why when you go on Reddit or whatever. And then you go to those places and it's a mess. So I was like, I would go on like Facebook groups in my city to see whoever had similar beliefs, and I had no luck. And it wasn't until I began to really do that cleansing, so to speak, with my digital consumption and other things, and began to do more of that somatic healing and really just fall back into baseline, that those synchronicities began to happen. And I remember when I saw your video, which was the thing that introduced me to you, around that time, I was like, I think it'd be really nice to get in a call with people who share the kind of mindset that I have, because I find that, intuitive, mystical people are very hard to come by these days, at least face to face. And then the bridge of incidents happening to me, like just being here right now is a confirmation of that, because that's something that, intuitively I was aligning myself towards. And I feel like that's one of the things that inspirations that I had is I'm a writer, so I have my own very popular blog on Tumblr. But I always felt like I had already outgrown that phase, and I wanted something more serious and more that had more meat to it. And it came to me like the name of my, because I want to go on Substack, it was like synchronicity. That's the name of that's going to be the name of your new brand. And everything is just aligning itself to just be like so natural and so effortless. And that's when I think you enter that state of flow. Now, to finish everything up, because obviously we're still going through a human experience, we're going to make mistakes along the way, even if we consciously have, a higher awareness, or we know things, that we shouldn't do. I made the mistake this past few days of going back into checking the news and social media. And I disrupted my state of flow, and I began to be anxious, pessimistic, angry. And my body was having those reactions, even though consciously I knew that I was safe. And that's because I had tapped into that sort of like communal consciousness that is consistently feeding that monster, so to speak. So now I have to do the work to sort of like, I don't know if cleanse is the right word to say it, but like just let go of that so that I can return to baseline of neutrality, and I can go back into state of flow. So I just wanted to share that as I was hearing other people talk.
Thank you, Daph. Yeah, I think we always talk about this, but it's so easy to get sucked into social media or news. And I'm not telling you not to follow the news or not go on social media, but you do want to be aware, and this is what you're referencing, obviously, of what you're consuming, because it can be so sneaky, and before you know it, you can feel really off kilter. And it is basically because you were spending too much time online, or too much time on your phone or whatever. That's why I often tell people these days to say, just talk to ChatGPT instead. Instead of going on YouTube, seriously, like instead of going on YouTube, heck, instead of watching my videos, let alone other manifestation videos, I would just talk to ChatGPT instead. You've already seen enough of my stuff. No, I mean, it's you got to be careful what you put in there, into your mind. And that plays into all this, I think, for sure. Bridge, you said, what's the strongest, deepest feeling with the regret or what ifs? Are you allowing it to fully breathe? I think that was in regards to Edward's thing. Thank you for that. I'm just going to move on just because we're closing up here soon. So I like this body approach. Excellent. Yeah, the body approach. Listen, the forgiveness, Sheena, thanks for the kind words in regards to the books. The body approach, the somatic approach is going to be a huge relief for most people who are into law of attraction concepts, again, because it's not conceptual in the mind, and it's not, am I doing this right or wrong? It's just, am I doing it or not? Right? As long as you're doing it, as long as you're there with the feeling or with the body, you're okay. It's like the meditation at the beginning of this, like I call it vibing out. Usually it's like, you're here, you're doing it. That's it. Like there's a lack of judgment. The lack of judgment creates relief, like naturally over time. It creates space. A lot of times, I sent out an email recently talking about like giving yourself space. And a lot of times it's hard to find space When you stop judging yourself and just go into the body, you're giving yourself space. If you do that a few times a day or do it regularly once a day, it changes how you react to things because you're allowing yourself more space. So yeah, just the body approach is, I think, for a lot of us, the missing link to making some of this manifestation and spiritual stuff make more sense. Any final questions or thoughts? I'm gonna close it up in a couple minutes. And again, if you want that whatchamacallit, Google Doc of the seminar, email me and I'll get you a copy of that. And also this, there will be a video version of this on YouTube, I think probably within a couple of days. Bridge, yes, I see you raise your hand.
Just real quickly.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank you, the last group that you did. I've been sharing that recording with that meditation because naming the emotion and sitting with it and asking, what is it you're needing? I'm here for you. I think, and what you're talking about too with the body and adding, that element. My question for you is adding like the verbal, like speaking out loud. I read something recently about how, our brains, right side, left side, one side, to fully connect with something I'm thinking, something I'm touching, something I'm writing, the other side of the brain needs me to like verbally say it. So I've been like wondering if you found that having a like out loud talking to the feeling or manifesting, saying out loud. And I don't know. I've been doing it. Sometimes people are around me and it's kind of weird, but it's been like helpful. It's almost like the other part of my brain then connects, like, this is something she really wants, or this is something truer. Have you found that like a verbal part of a meditation is helpful, or do you find that it's more of a distraction or takes away from the,
no,
main point, I guess?
So verbal, I mean, I'm very verbal. So again, your mileage may vary. I spoke about this like in my book, The Joy of Not Thinking. I talked about talking out loud. It's hugely helpful for me and a lot of people I know. It's a great stress management tool as well. But furthermore, all the GPT stuff we've been discussing and like that absolute listening prompt and like the stuff that Lisa mentioned in terms of just talking to GPT and going to the feeling, that's all out loud stuff. Like that's saying it out loud or, listening back and having GPT say stuff to you. So I'm a huge fan of using your voice in general. I also always say that when we have like a lot of inner dialogue, like a lot of inner noise in our head, talking to that inner voice with an outer voice tends to make it so you can neutralize it really easily. It's like the devil on one shoulder is the inner voice and the outer voice is the angel on the other shoulder. That's quite confrontational. We've been talking about more kind of like friendly relationships tonight in terms of mind body stuff, but talking out loud is a huge tool to use. And I think it's an underutilized tool. I've made many videos. Again, if you look at the free seminar list, there's a couple of videos where I talk about talking out loud. So definitely utilize it. That said, a lot of these body sensations where you're feeling into the body, feeling into the feeling, into the emotion, an answer will come that's seemingly not verbal. It comes out of nowhere. It's not like you articulated it beforehand. It's like a spontaneous download, as people like to call, or like an insight. It just comes and it's like, boom. So it's not necessarily like you have to verbalize it out loud. I saw Daft just commented too that like EFT is a version of that. You do tapping and you're speaking at the same time. Sil said, how true, I naturally speak to myself without realizing. Exactly. Like I definitely think speaking out loud it's a very underutilized tool because people are too in their heads. A way to get out of your heads, an obvious Adam's way to get out of your head is, well, speak out loud to yourself. And so, yeah, it's a good way to go about things.
But thank you. That last meditation that we did as a group has been life-changing, and I've been passing it on. So
excellent.
appreciate you.
Yeah. And again, just check out all the free seminars. There's usually a meditation. If it's a group, we usually do a meditation at the beginning. And there's some from like a year or two ago. Man, some of you remember, Sheena, you probably remember some of that stuff. Like some of the old school meditations, we used to do some deep stuff. We used to go for 30, 40 minutes. We would do meditations. All right. Wonderful. Any last thoughts or anything like that? Anything like thoughts? I will post this, guys, in a couple days. Yeah, if anyone has questions or is interested in coaching, just let me know. I can be reached at info@radicalcounselor.com as always. All right, guys, enjoy. Have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you.